Hello YouTube, welcome back. In the last video we started part 1 of the snake game tutorial. This is going to be part 2. It's not going to cover a whole lot. We're just going to do a few things, and as we move through it you'll kind of understand why we're doing these changes. Um, the first part, I'm just going to make a little bit of cleanup here. I'm going to add a comma to the end items of each of these dictionaries. We're going to get rid of this extra screen fill that we have here. We don't need it as we are doing the screen fill down here in our while loop. So with that, I'm just going to save this. We're going to execute it. We're going to talk about the first change that we need to make. We need to get rid of all this. We're just going to do snake. So here's where we left off with the game. We're capable of moving this little red dot around by one key press, moving it one block basically. We're working in blocks if you think about it as a block of 10 pixels or so. So this is moving it around one at a time per key press. So obviously with snake games, you want the snake to continue to travel in the direction that you last pressed. To do this, we're going to add a direction value or key in value to the dictionary here. And it's going to start off as none because I want it to start in the middle and sit there until we do a key press. Then we're going to come down to our while loop, and in our evaluation under the for loop for the events, and we check the event key down, and we basically say, hey, if key left or key A, which is WASD would be A for left. What we're going to do is, instead of changing it to this, changing the X position directly, we're going to change the direction the snake is headed in to left. And we're going to put this as a lowercase word. And we're going to take the same thing and we're going to do it here, here, here. Only we're going to change this to down, this one to up, and this one to right. Cool. Well, now we don't need these to be where they're at. So what we need is outside of that for loop, where we're no longer worried about checking for a condition change, we want to just check to see what direction the snake is headed in. So to do that, we're going to do an if snake direction equal to, and it's a string, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to copy this a couple of times so that we can do this very easily. Left, right, up, or down. Then we take these values that we already have, cut them with Control X, and put them underneath their appropriate condition statement. Right. This one is up. And then this one is down. Oh no. Sorry. There we go. I'm going to take away these extra spaces that we have here just by doing that. We don't need all of that. There we go. So that should be functional. That should do what it's supposed to do. Now, the important thing to note is that this while loop is going to continue to run as fast as it can. We have no restriction on it, which means as fast as my computer can process, we're going to make these evaluations. Which means super speed. But it is moving in the continuous direction. It's just moving super fast. So to fix that, we're going to come back up here, and I'm going to add this next to the screen. It's going to be called a clock. And this is going to be coming out of Pygame still. So this is pygame.time.clock with an uppercase C. And we're setting it to this clock here. We're going to come up here to the config, and we're going to add another one here. We're going to put speed. And I'm going to set this to, let's say, 20. And what this is going to act as is going to be like our frames per second. How many frames per second do we want it to process? Here at the bottom of the while loop, we put in clock.tick config and then we put in our speed. What that will give us is a much more reasonable pace for the snake to move at. But we still have the problem of it being able to go off the screen in any of these directions. We don't have anything stopping it. There's no collision. So what we're going to do is add some collision for the walls. So right here after this update, basically after the draw has completed, we need to evaluate if we've collided with a wall. So that's going to be if snake x is less than 0 or snake we'll go x greater than or equal to. This is important to know that there's two different things going on here. And I'll call them out in just a second. Screen x. So what's happening here is if it is less than 0, that means we've gone all the way to the left. If the snake goes all the way to the right, it can actually go one more to the right than the screen itself, because the leftmost corner, upper left corner of the block is technically where the XY axis is for the snake. So that means that the X would still technically be inside of screen X, because that would be the very end of screen X. And that's where the upper left corner would be. So we want it to be greater than or equal to in that case. Or we're going to do the same thing with Y. Less than 0 means that we're all the way up at the top and we are crossing the top. Or snake Y is greater than or equal to big screen Y. And if that happens, I'm just going to issue a break. We're going to break out of the while loop. So outside of the while loop, we're going to just do print. You hit a wall. Problem solved. What this is going to do is let us run into the wall. Each direction has now a you hit the wall option. Okay, so we now see how to evaluate that and have a collision. Fantastic. The important thing is with the way we set it up, we can actually run just inside the wall, because this is still a valid path and could be a place where the food might spawn. But that is all I really wanted to cover today. So just to recap, we added this speed value, we added this direction value, we introduced this Pygame clock so that we can control the refresh rate. We've changed it so that our key press changes the direction of the snake, but the actual XY change happens outside of the key press loop, outside of that for Pygame event handler. And then we added this collision here at the end and the clock tick, and you ran into a wall and closing the game out. Hopefully this has been informative. If you were enjoying these videos, the series, etc., please feel free to like, subscribe, push the notification bells, that kind of stuff. I don't remember exactly all the things that most of the famous people say, but push the buttons and be prepared for more content, because I do intend to be pushing more videos, and I will hopefully see you all soon.